Concerning Yellowstone supervolcano in the United States, geologists reveal small lava eruptions are still a big deal. A new timeline of eruptions, researchers said, changed the way geologists think about lava flow events and volcanic hazards in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Small lava eruptions in the Yellowstone volcano caldera are more dramatic than was thought and occurs in clusters, making them, while not catastrophic, still a big deal, quote unquote. This is the conclusion of a new study by researchers who used radiometric dating to refine the timeline of volcanic activity in the national park. The Yellowstone caldera, a caldera-shaped depression in the ground produced when a magma chamber empties and collapses. For the last super eruption we had was about 631,000 years ago. The supervolcano eruption released some 240 cubic miles of rhyolitic, that's thick silica-rich magma, and deposited ash over a large swath of the United States. These dramatic events are rare, however. Only 3 are thought to have occurred in the last 2.1 million years from Yellowstone. There were others, of course, in the world at that time. One of them, the last super eruption from the nearby supervolcano of California, Long Valley caldera, erupted 760,000 years ago. So the Yellowstone, they had 3 super eruptions in Yellowstone, 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, 630,000 years ago, with smaller scale eruptions being much more common. And these small episodes of volcanic activity are known as intracaldera eruptions for how they take place via vents within the caldera. They typically take the form of lava flows, swelling lava domes, or in rare cases, small explosive eruptions. We know Yellowstone has over 10,000 hydrothermal vents and over 60% of the world's geysers. Now, while far smaller in volume than caldera-forming eruptions, typically only 0.1 to 17 cubic miles, the total amount of rock erupted by the intercaldera events is on par with their larger counterparts. The lava released in the episode has filled in much of Yellowstone caldera, which is partly why visitors to the national park don't see an obvious depression in the landscape, because the lava has filled it in. Geologists believe that since the Yellowstone caldera was formed 631,000 years ago, more than 86 cubic miles of material have erupted from at least 28 rhyolitic intercaldera eruptions, which can be grouped into 2 stages. Between 580,000 and 250,000 years ago, at least 6 eruptions were deposited in the caldera. These are known as the upper basin member rhyolites, and more recently, between 160,000 and 70,000 years ago, there have been 22 eruptions that make up the Central Plateau member rhyolites. In their study, geologist Dr. Mark Stelton and his colleagues at the U.S. Geological Survey set out to precisely constrain the timing of the Central Plateau member rhyolites, and to do this, the team used a radiometric dating technique called AR39 to AR40 geochronology, which involved measuring the decay of potassium into argon in a mineral called sanidine, which is found in Yellowstone's rhyolitic lavas. The researchers determined that the 22 eruptions that produced the Central Plateau member rhyolites occurred in 5 brief episodes. And here we go. 160,000 years ago, 150,000 years ago, 111,000 years ago, 104,000 years ago, and 71,000 years ago. All those years, 22 eruptions. That's a lot, don't you think? These episodes saw 2 to 9 rhyolites erupted from volcanic vents spaced out over a few to several miles over the course of 400 years or less. Each saw between 2.5 to 31 cubic miles of magma erupted, Stelton said. For comparison, Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, erupted about 0.25 cubic kilometers, or 0.06 cubic miles of magma. So Each of the Yellowstone eruptions were how much? 60 to 100 times more. Can you imagine? Now this means, he explained, that intercaldera eruptions are more dramatic events than previously appreciated, often involving multiple eruptions occurring in different parts of the caldera at the time. By extension, if each of the 5 eruption episodes are actually one single volcanic event, this means that the long-term eruption rate at Yellowstone is even lower than thought. In other words, the eruptions can happen close to each other. Stelton concluded the new geochronology results show that intracaldera rhyolite eruptions are more dramatic but less frequent than previously appreciated. While they may typically lack the huge explosions, the super eruptions are the case that characterize caldera-forming eruptions, they can happen in groups where multiple rhyolite eruptions occur over a short duration. Don't let Yellowstone's smaller rhyolite eruptions fool you. They are still a big deal, he said. And the full findings of the study are published in the journal Bulletin of Volcanology. And this is on Express UK by Ian Randall. So this is amazing. How many frequent smaller eruptions from the super eruptions have occurred at Yellowstone? Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.